My daughter looked me in the eyes and said, "Don't you want your granddaughter to have a better life after demanding control over my money?" So I told her then stop building her future on someone else's wallet. I'm 62, male retired, and I like to think I'm doing all right. My wife Rebecca passed a few years back, so it's just me now. Sold. The big house moved into a duplex, and I keep life simple. I do my own yard grill on weekends, watch the game, and keep my books balanced to the penny. Not rich, but I'm not broke either. I worked 4 decades, saved smart, and I don't let anybody screw with my money. Apparently that makes me a walking ATM in my daughter Sarah's eyes. Sarah's 34. She used to be sweet, funny kid. Now she's glued to her phone and thinks she owes the world. Then there's Jason. He's her fiancé, 36, real estate guy. You know the type. Expensive suits, shiny watch hair slicked back like he's auditioning for a mob movie. First time I met him, I knew he was a smooth-talking leech. He talks too much and says nothing if you get what I mean. So they come over one Saturday. Jason's grinning like he just closed $1 million deal. Sarah's got this serious face on. I already knew I wasn't going to like where this was headed. We sit down and Jason says, "Thomas, we wanted to talk about something important. Always love when people butter it up like that before asking for something insane. Here it comes. They need $65,000 for their honeymoon. Not for a house, not for paying down debt, not for something that builds. A damn vacation. Some luxury trip to the Maldives with a private villa, spa treatments, imported marble bathrooms because apparently hotel bathrooms now matter in love stories, and a month of pretending they're royalty." I actually laughed. Thought it was a joke. $65,000 for a vacation. I said, "What are you buying the island to?" Jason didn't laugh. Sarah didn't either. They were dead serious. Sarah says, "Dad, you're sitting on money. You have mom's insurance, your retirement. Don't you want me to start my life happy?" I leaned back and said, "Your happiness doesn't cost 65 grand. 15, that's what I'll give you. It's generous. It's more than I had when I got married, and it'll cover a decent wedding and a trip. You want the Maldives, get a travel agent and a second job." Jason jumps in with his salesman voice. "Thomas, think about it. This isn't just about Sarah. This is about family. With the baby on the way, don't you want her to have stability? Don't you want to invest in your grandchild's future?" I smirked. "Oh, now it's an investment because last I checked, investments usually pay back. A vacation doesn't pay back. You just want me to fund your Instagram slideshow." That wiped the grin off him for a second, but Sarah jumped in. "You're being selfish. Jason's dad helps us when we need it. He understands family." That's when I leaned forward and snapped. "Then go ask him for $65,000. See if he buys your little sales pitch because my answer isn't changing." Now here's the thing. I love my daughter. Always have. But the way she said that, like I owed her my savings just because I'm her dad, that wasn't love talking. That was entitlement. That was Jason whispering in her ear, winding her up. So I stayed calm, didn't raise my voice. I just said I worked 40 years for that money. I saved, I sacrificed, and I buried my wife before I ever thought about touching a cent of it. That money is to keep me afloat, not bankroll a vacation you'll forget in 6 months. 15 grand. Take it or leave it. Sarah gave me this look cold. The kind of look people give when they've already decided you're the enemy. She stood up, grabbed her purse, and said, "If you don't care about my happiness, don't expect to see your grandchild." Then she stormed out. Jason followed, didn't even look back. The door slammed, and that was that. You'd think I'd feel crushed, but honestly, I sat there in my recliner, turned on the ball game, and thought, if they're going to try to run a shakedown on me, they better bring more than sad faces and fake guilt. It wasn't the first time Sarah tried to pull something, but this was the biggest. And Jason, I could practically see the dollar signs in his eyes. He wasn't marrying my daughter, he was marrying her access to me. I knew it then. The silence after that fight lasted weeks. Not a call, not a text, fine by me, less drama in my life. I still went about my business, paid my bills, even fixed the sink I'd been putting off. The peace was nice, but here's the thing about grifters. They don't just stop, they regroup, they scheme, they look for another angle. So a couple weeks after the 65 grand stunt, Sarah calls me out of nowhere, voice all soft like she just got back from a yoga retreat. "Dad, I've been thinking maybe we were both too stubborn. Jason and I want to talk things over. Let's do dinner. Vittoria, my treat." Vittoria. That's not a let's grab a burger place. It's where I took Rebecca for our 25th anniversary. Sarah knew that. That was the hook. She picked the one place she thought could soften me up, which told me 2 things. 1, they wanted me sentimental, and 2, Jason was behind it. I said sure, kept my voice steady, didn't let on. I was already 10 steps ahead. I hung up, sat back in my chair and thought, all right, Jason, let's dance. See, most people my age get written off as slow or easy to push. I like leaning into that. Folks expect me to nod along, then I hit them with something they didn't see coming. Anyway, I wasn't walking into Victoria's blind. I got my ducks lined up. First thing, I pulled out my phone and scrolled down to Maggie Lawson. She's been practicing family law longer than Jason's been alive. Maggie doesn't do small talk, doesn't sugarcoat. She's the type who'll eat a young lawyer for breakfast and not even need coffee after. I'd had a chat with her after Sarah's first blow-up, just a what-if conversation. Now I made sure her number was pinned to my favorites list. So before I left the house, I shot Maggie a quick text with the time and table number, just in case Jason's let's talk meant something slimier than pasta and small talk. She didn't confirm she'd show, but I knew if things smelled off, she'd be there. Victoria looked the same as always. Sarah was already there, dressed up in some designer dress I couldn't pronounce. She stood, hugged me, said, "You look great, Dad." I gave her a once-over and said, "You too. Must have cost Jason a week's paycheck." She forced a laugh, sat back down. We ordered water, made small talk. I asked about her pregnancy. She gave me the rundown like she was reading off a brochure. Then she dropped Jason's just finishing up at the office. "He'll be here any minute." Of course he was. I nodded, leaned back, sipped my water. "Looking forward to it," I said. Though what I meant was, let's get this circus going. While we waited, I kept my phone on the table screened down. But Maggie's number was one swipe away. I also had Jeremy's number queued. My son's an ER doc. Cool head under pressure. Doesn't waste words. The type of guy you want around when stuff goes sideways. And knowing Jason, it was about to go sideways real fast. When Jason finally walked in, I didn't even flinch. He wasn't alone. 3 suits walked in behind him, briefcases in hand, and that's when I knew my gut was right. This wasn't dinner, this was business. Their business. Their shot at cornering me. But here's the thing, I wasn't cornered. Not even close. I'd played this game too long to fold now. Jason thought he had the upper hand walking into Victoria's with his little legal entourage. What he didn't know was, I'd already moved my pieces on the board. I straightened my jacket, gave him a grin and thought, all right, son, show me your cards. Let's see if you can handle what's coming next. Jason studded over like he owned the place, flashing his fake movie star smile. Behind him, 3 lawyers trailed in with their briefcases, like ducklings following their mom. Real subtle. Victoria is candlelight and pasta, not a boardroom. They looked ridiculous. Thomas Jason said, "Thanks for meeting us. We thought it'd be best to talk things through with some professional guidance." Professional guidance, I repeated. Funny, I didn't realize reconciliation required a legal team. Guess I missed that episode of Dr. Phil. Sarah shifted in her chair. "Wouldn't look at me," she muttered. "Dad, they're just here to help explain some things." "Uh-huh," I said, leaning back. "So do I order lasagna before or after the interrogation?" One of the suit's silver-haired guy with that practiced predatory grin slid a manila folder across the table. "Mr. Carter, my name is Richard Kirk. We've prepared some documents we believe will make things easier for everyone involved." I didn't touch the folder, just looked at it like it might bite. Easier for who exactly? Jason jumped in before Kirk could answer. "It's simple, Thomas. You sign over power of attorney. That way Sarah and I can manage your finances, investments, property decisions. You know, take some weight off your shoulders." I raised an eyebrow. "Take weight off my shoulders? I still carry my own groceries, son. Pretty sure I can handle my bank account." Jason chuckled like I'd told a dad joke. Of course. But you're 62 now. Things get complicated. Markets shift. Why stress yourself when we can handle it?" I stared him dead in the eye. "Jason, I still do my taxes by hand and caught the county assessor overcharging me $800 last year. If you think I can't add, you've been sniffing too much copier ink." Sarah finally spoke up. Her tone was flat cold. "Dad, this is the smart move. If you sign, everything runs smoothly. If you don't, well, you might not see your granddaughter grow up." And there it was, the threat straight from my little girl's mouth. For a second, I just sat there taking in the gall of it. Then I leaned forward, folded my hands and said, "So that's the deal. Sign my life away or lose my grandkid." You realize that sounds less like family and more like a ransom note, right? Sarah's jaw tightened. Jason put on his calm businessman face. "No one's threatening you, Thomas. We're offering security for Sarah for the baby for you. This way nothing gets mismanaged." "Mismanaged," I repeated. "You mean like your leased BMW that's overdue for service or your last 3 can't miss real estate deals that missed so hard they're in orbit?" His smile twitched. The silver-haired lawyer cleared his throat like he wanted to move things along. "Mr. Carter, if you could just sign here and initial here, we can finalize this tonight." I finally opened the folder. Power of attorney just like I thought. Full control of my accounts, my property, my insurance. 40 years of sweat and work laid out like a buffet for Jason to dig into. I closed it calmly. And if I don't sign, Sarah finally looked at me. Her eyes were cold, calculating. Then you won't see Emma. It's your choice. I let that hang for a moment, then reached into my jacket pocket, past my wallet and glasses, and pulled out my phone. I scrolled until I hit the number I wanted. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Dad, what are you doing? I pressed call, put the phone to my ear. Hey Jeremy, it's Dad. Need you at Victoria's on Meridian? Yeah, now don't worry about changing. Scrubs are fine. Just get here. I hung up, set the phone down on the table. Screen up this time. Jason laughed nervously. There's no need to drag Jeremy into this. This is between us. I smirked. Between us, Jason? You walked into dinner with 3 lawyers. I think us left the building 20 minutes ago. The younger lawyer looked uncomfortable shuffling papers he wasn't reading. Kirk tried again, softer this time. Mr. Carter, family matters can get emotional. We're just trying to ensure everything is handled properly. Handled properly, I said? That's a good one? Let me guess. For a small administrative fee, right? Jason's jaw twitched again. Thomas, please, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You should be thanking us for stepping in. I laughed loud enough that a couple at the next table turned their heads. Thanking you, son. I'd thank you if you grabbed the check once in a while, but unless your signature magically adds commas to my balance, you don't get to step into anything. The silence after that was tight. Jason shifted. Sarah looked down at her nails. The lawyers exchanged glances like vultures, realizing the prey wasn't dying on cue. I glanced at my watch. Jeremy will be here in about 20 minutes, give or take. He drives faster than you sell nonsense, so maybe less. Why don't we wait until he arrives? He's good at reading people. Jason's smile cracked. Thomas, come on. You don't need Jeremy involved. This is a decision only you can make. Exactly, I said, which is why I'm not letting you make it for me. For a minute, no one spoke. Silver hair? Kirk finally whispered something to Jason, who nodded stiffly. Sarah still wouldn't meet my eyes. I leaned back, relaxed, and folded my arms. Tell you what, gentlemen. Let's all enjoy the nice music, the candlelight, maybe even order a plate of pasta while we wait for my son, because I've got a feeling he'll have a few choice words about all this. And trust me, he's a lot less patient than I am. The silence stretched tight as piano wire. Then the door opened. In walked Jeremy, fresh from the hospital, still in Scrub's badge clipped to his collar. He spotted the table, sized up the scene in 3 seconds flat, and strolled over. Wow, he said, pulling out a chair. Dinner with lawyers. Fancy. You paying Jason? No. Didn't think so. Jason stiffened. Jeremy, this isn't necessary. We're just... Jeremy cut him off with a hand. Don't waste my time. I was elbow deep in a guy's chest an hour ago. If you dragged me here because you're running another scam, I'm charging you consulting rates. I leaned back, hiding the grin behind my hand. My boy was sharp, and I knew Jason had no clue what storm just rolled in. The silver-haired lawyer cleared his throat. Mr. Carter, we were simply presenting your father with an option to ease the burden of managing his assets. Jeremy leaned forward, elbows on the table. Assets. You mean his retirement? His house, the stuff he spent 40 years building, and you want him to hand it over to Captain Lee? Payment over here? He jerked a thumb at Jason. Yeah, not happening. Jason bristled. You don't understand the arrangement. This is about protecting Sarah and the baby. Jeremy gave him a slow once-over like a doctor examining a rash. Protecting them? Jason, you can't even protect your own credit score. You've been ducking Visa since 2019. Don't talk to me about protection. Sarah slammed her phone down. Jeremy, stop. This isn't your business. Dad needs to think about the future. You don't get it. Oh, I get it, Jeremy said flatly. I get that you and your fiancé cooked up this little stunt to grab power of attorney. I get that you tried to corner Dad when you thought he'd be too old to fight back. But what you don't get, sis, is Dad isn't the fool you think he is. And neither am I. I chuckled. Told you, Jason, he's less patient than me. The younger lawyer tried again, nervous sweat already showing. If we could just review the terms, I think you'd see. Jeremy grabbed the folder, flipped a couple pages like he'd done this 100 times, and tapped the 3rd section with his finger. Here's your poison pill. Full authority, no oversight. The kind of garbage that lets you drain a man dry without him even knowing. Don't insult me. The guy shut his folder so fast it snapped. Jason tried to salvage his pitch. Jeremy, come on. Think logically. Dad can't handle everything forever. Wouldn't it be better if family stepped in before outsiders? Jeremy leaned in, voice sharp. Jason, you're not family. You're a parasite with a better suit than sense. And Sarah, he turned to his sister, his voice cold now. I can't believe you'd sell Dad out for this guy. Power of attorney. Really? What's next? You take his car too, Sarah finally snapped. We're offering security, Jeremy. You don't know what it's like raising a child. Jeremy cut her mid-sentence. I know what it's like saving lives while you play dress-up as a victim. Don't lecture me. I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud. Half the restaurant glanced over, but I didn't care. Jeremy, ease up. You'll make them cry. Good, Jeremy shot back. They should cry. They're lucky you even showed up tonight instead of calling the cops. Jason's face was red now, his lawyer whispering frantically. This isn't over, Jason muttered. Jeremy smirked. You're right. It's not because I'm making sure this little stunt follows you. You like leasing luxury cars? Good luck getting another when your name starts showing up on fraud watch lists. Jason blinked. What? Oh yeah, Jeremy said casually, like he was discussing the weather. I've got contacts who love hearing about guys like you. Fake businesses, bad credit, shaking down your fiance's dad for cash. They eat that stuff up. Sarah hissed. Jeremy, shut up. Jeremy ignored her, turning to me. Dad, don't sign a thing. Jason sat there frozen. His perfect grin was gone, jaw-tight eyes darting between Sarah and the lawyers like someone just pulled the rug out from under him. Sarah didn't look much better. Jason tried to bark something about us regretting this, but Jeremy just waved a hand without looking at him. The only thing I regret is wearing white socks with these shoes. Everything else number that shut Jason up for a beat. I leaned back, arms crossed, watching the color drain from his face. The room was tense, and I knew it was only a matter of time before the next move hit the table. The room was dead quiet. Jason was still clutching his precious folder like it was the Magna Carta. Sarah had her arms crossed like she was queen of the castle, and Jeremy was leaning back in his chair with that smirk that always told me he was 2 steps ahead. That's when I saw her. Maggie Thomas, she said, resting a hand on my shoulder. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was hell. Not a problem, I said. You got here just in time. These kids were about to start performing a magic act with my bank account. Jeremy snorted, more like a robbery without the masks. Maggie's eyes flicked to Jason, then Sarah, then the pile of papers on the table. Ah, so this is the famous financial plan I've heard whispers about. She didn't even sit down before plucking the top sheet off the stack. Jason tried to jump in. All charm and sales pitch. Now hold on, ma'am. She cut him off like he wasn't even breathing. I'm not your ma'am. I'm the attorney who's been cleaning up scams like this since before you were out of diapers. So, I suggest you take a seat and keep your mouth shut unless you want to look even dumber than you already do. Jeremy laughed so loud the couple at the next table turned to look. God, I like her already, he muttered. Jason's smile cracked, but Sarah leaned forward desperate. Maggie, this isn't a scam, it's a real opportunity. Jason's uncle is in finance. Oh, an uncle, Maggie said, pretending to be impressed. Well, that changes everything. You hear that? Thomas, forget Neil Lynch, forget JP Morgan. We've got Uncle Greg with a Yahoo email address. I nearly spit my coffee out. Jeremy slapped the table. Uncle Greg, huh? Probably runs his empire out of a basement next to his Xbox. Jason's jaw clenched. This is serious. Maggie raised a hand, silencing him again. Let me make this easy. Thomas owes you nothing, not a dime. He has no legal obligation to support your lifestyle, your half-baked business, or your little European fantasy honeymoon. The only person with any obligation to Thomas is me, to make sure bloodsuckers like you don't drain him dry. Sarah bristled. We're family. Maggie leaned in, voice sharp enough to cut steel. Family doesn't ambush their father at dinner with contracts drawn up by some sketchy cousin who probably took a law class on YouTube. Family doesn't bully their old man into coughing up his savings. What you're doing isn't family. It's extortion wrapped in birthday wrapping paper. Jason opened his mouth, but Maggie steamrolled right over him. If you push this, I'll drag you into court so fast your head will spin. And trust me, Jason, you do not want your employment history, your credit report, or your personal record dragged into the sunlight because I already pulled your public records, liens, judgments, overdrafts. It's all right here. You should worry less about Thomas's savings and more about your own mess. Jason froze. His face went pale. You... What? Maggie smiled thinly. You heard me. You think Thomas is a fool? He called me the second Sarah sent that little dinner invite. So while you were polishing your speech in the mirror, I was digging. And what I found? She tapped the papers with a manicured finger. Let's just say you should worry less about Thomas's money and more about paying off your own debts before a real creditor comes knocking. Jeremy whistled low. Somebody call the paramedics. This man's flatlining. I couldn't resist. Jeremy, don't bother. Even CPR can't save a dead career. Jason's ears were bright red now. He looked like a balloon about to pop. Sarah, on the other hand, was floundering. Dad, please. You're making a mistake. Jason's just trying to build something for us. For the baby, can't you see that, Sarah? I said, my voice flat. You've got a kid now. That means responsibility. You want to build something? Build it with your own 2 hands. Don't expect me to bankroll your fiancé's gambling habit? Her eyes widened. That's not true. Maggie leaned back, flipping through her notes. It's very true. Credit card advances, online betting accounts, 3 overdraft fees in the last quarter. Shall I keep going? I chuckled. Jason, you're not just broke, you're sloppy. And the worst part? You thought I wouldn't find out. Maggie stood, tucking her papers neatly back into her bag. Gentlemen, I think we're done here. Thomas, Jeremy, shall we order dessert? I feel like we've earned it. Jeremy grinned like a wolf. Yeah, I could use a cannoli after watching this guy's life get dismantled. I smiled, leaning back in my chair, feeling the tension finally break. Make it 2 cannoli and maybe some decaf for Jason. He looks a little jittery. Jason glared, but he didn't say a word. Sarah's face was pale, her eyes darting between me, Jeremy, and Maggie like she couldn't believe her perfect little ambush had blown up in her face. I folded my arms and gave a slow nod. Checkmate, kids. You wanted to play chess with me. Next time, bring a board and some pieces that aren't made of cardboard. If Jason thought storming out of Victoria meant the fight was still on, he was in for a rude awakening. The fallout didn't take long. 2 weeks later, I get a call from Maggie. She's practically chuckling through the phone. Your future son-in-law just had his accounts frozen. Apparently, he wasn't as slick with his side deals as he thought. Which side deals, I asked. All of them, she said. Some half-baked real estate ventures with partners who finally wised up. They pulled the rug on him, filed suits, froze his access. The man can't even cash a check right now without getting flagged. I sat there sipping my coffee, watching the sun come up, and grinned. Guess Uncle Greg wasn't much help after all. Jeremy, of course, was eating it up. Every other day, he texts me screenshots. Jason spotted arguing outside a strip mall office. Jason trying to unload his car online. Jason getting roasted on a poker form for being banned from a site. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, only I didn't even need popcorn. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, only I didn't even need popcorn. Sarah, though, that's where the desperation started to ooze in. She tried every angle. First, it was the "we're still family" approach. She mailed me a birthday card. Nothing special inside, just a happy birthday. Dad scrolled in that rushed handwriting of hers. No gift, no phone call, just enough so she could say she'd tried. Then came the chance encounters. Running into me at the hardware store, all smiles like nothing had happened. Oh, Dad, what a surprise. I was just grabbing paint samples. Yeah, sure. Meanwhile, she lived 20 minutes away and hadn't touched a paintbrush since high school. See, I'd already made up my mind. I wasn't playing their games anymore. You can only fall for the same tricks so many times before you start treating the magician like an amateur. And once I pulled my focus off their nonsense, life actually got better. Case in point, Frank Evans moved in 2 houses down. 70 if he's a day exactory guy. Tough as nails. The type who wears suspenders unironically and calls everyone chief. First time I met him, he was cussing out a contractor for trying to overcharge him on a gutter job. I stepped over, backed him up, and 5 minutes later we were on his porch swapping stories. You remind me of the guys I used to work with, he said. Sharp, don't take crap from anybody. We're going to get along fine. And he was right. We've been grabbing coffee, talking shop, even started walking the neighborhood together. It felt good to shoot the breeze with someone who didn't want a dime out of me. Just a solid old school guy who called things like he saw them. That's what pushed me into volunteering too. Frank mentioned the local community center had a program where retirees help seniors spot scams. Phone calls, shady contractors, you name it. I figured why not, I'd just gone through my own circus. Might as well put the lessons to use. Meanwhile, Sarah kept fumbling the ball. Months rolled by, and somewhere in the middle of all Jason's lawsuits and her guilt trips, she finally had the baby little Emma. And here's the thing. They named her after Rebecca's mother, my late wife's mother, a woman Sarah barely knew but suddenly wanted to honor. Jeremy told me about it first. Dad, I think they're trying to pull on your heartstrings, naming her after Grandma Rebecca's side and all. I just shook my head. Son, when you're drowning, you'll grab at anything. Doesn't mean it'll keep you afloat. Of course, Sarah made sure to send me a glossy photo card. Big, cursive letters. Welcome, Emma. Inside a note about how Mom would have loved to see this day, and we wanted you to be part of her legacy. I stared at it for a good 5 minutes, then dropped it in the shredder. Legacy isn't built on guilt trips and scams. Legacy is built on how you treat people while you're still breathing. And Sarah and Jason had already made their choice. Thing is, by then I didn't even feel mad anymore. Not really. They'd tried to play me and it backfired. Now I was busy living my own life teaching seniors not to get hustled, shooting the breeze with Frank eating Victoria's lasagna without having to fend off a contract across the table. Jason's reputation was dust. Sarah was clinging to a sinking ship. And me, I was fine. Better than fine, actually. I sat on my porch one night, Jeremy next to me, Frank across the street waving as he walked his dog. Jeremy looked over and said, "You know, Dad, most guys your age are slowing down. You're just getting sharper." I smirked. "Well, son, some people age like milk. I prefer to age like a locked safe harder to crack every year." Jeremy laughed so hard he nearly choked on his soda. And that was that. Jason could stew. Sarah could scheme, but I wasn't their mark anymore. I was done being their wallet, their safety net, their gullible old man. And as far as I was concerned, the best part wasn't even cutting them off. It was realizing I hadn't lost anything at all. They had Jason's empire, if you could even call it that, crumbled faster than week-old bread. The lawsuits piled up, and with no money to pay lawyers, he tried to represent himself. Court transcripts read like a comedy skit. The man actually argued that verbal promises were binding contracts. The judge nearly spit his coffee out. Word spread quick. Contractors he stiffed started blasting him online. One guy even made a website called jasontakesandrins.com. It was basically a museum of every job he'd botched. Sarah must have been mortified, but she stayed by his side. Loyalty is a funny thing. Doesn't mean you're right, just means you're stubborn. One evening, Sarah showed up at my porch with Emma strapped to her chest. Jason wasn't with her. She didn't ask permission, just walked right up like she owned the place. "Dad," she started, voice shaking but still trying to sound strong. "I know things are rough, but we're family and family helps each other." I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms. Family doesn't set traps in restaurants and shove contracts under my nose. Sarah, that was business, and business has consequences. She tried the baby card. Look at Emma. She deserves better than this. She deserves to know her grandfather. I didn't flinch. Emma deserves parents who don't use her as a pawn. You want me to respect her? Start by respecting yourself. That stung. She bit her lip, eyes watering. But I wasn't done. You made a choice, Sarah. You hitched your wagon to Jason, and when it fell apart, you thought I'd ride in on a white horse. I'm not that guy. Not anymore. She left without another word, but the silence spoke louder than anything. Jason, meanwhile, kept digging his own hole. He started selling tools door to door. Jeremy ran into him once. "Dad." He tried to sell me a used drill for $50, swore it was top of the line. The thing had duct tape on the handle. I couldn't stop laughing. Guess he finally learned sales, just 30 years too late. But Sarah wasn't done trying. A few weeks later, she mailed me a letter handwritten 5 pages long. It was the longest thing she'd written since high school. She apologized, blamed Jason's influence, said she missed Sunday dinners, begged me to reconsider. The kicker. At the end, she asked for $10,000 just to stabilize things until Jason gets back on his feet. I didn't even read the whole thing. Jeremy spotted the letter put into the shredder. Top page still dangling out. "You didn't even finish page 2, he asked. "Son," I said, "when a book starts with lies, you don't bother with the ending." Around that time, Maggie called me again. "You won't believe this. Jason tried to pull a fast one at City Hall. Filed paperwork under your name. Claimed you were a business partner on one of his failed projects." I nearly spit my coffee. "What happened?" "They flagged it instantly. Too many red marks on his record. City Attorney's Office flagged it instantly, slapped him with a cease and desist, and kicked the mess over to licensing. He's one step away from losing his ability to even pull permits in this city." I shook my head. The man couldn't organize a bake sale without catching charges. The truth was, I didn't even feel angry anymore. It was all noise. Jason was background static. Sarah was a sad echo, and I was living my own life. Frank and I kept up our community center work. I even gave a talk one Saturday, how not to get played by your own kids. Packed room, standing ovation. One guy came up afterward and said, "You should write a book." I laughed. "Nah, books are too polite. I like telling it straight." By then, Jeremy was stepping into his own. Got promoted at work, started dating a girl who wasn't in it for his bank account. He'd swing by and fill me in. "Dad, every time Sarah calls, I let it ring. I'm not her delivery boy. That's my boy." I told him boundaries make men. You're learning quick. The final straw came on a Sunday afternoon. Jason himself showed up unshaven, wearing a wrinkled shirt, eyes wild. He marched right up my porch. No hesitation. "You ruined me," he yelled. "If you just signed that contract, I'd be in the clear." I stood slow and calm like a man stretching before a golf swing. "Jason, you ruined yourself. You tried to hustle the wrong old man and now you're paying the tab." He sputtered, fist clenched. "I'll bounce back. You'll see. Sarah and I will rise again." I smirked. "Rise where?" "Out of bankruptcy court. Don't make promises your wallet can't cash." Jeremy, who'd been inside, stepped out. "Dad want me to call someone?" I waved him off. Not worth it. Let the clown leave on his own. Jason stomped off, muttering threats. But we both knew he was finished. And just like that, the storm passed. No more letters, no more doorstep visits, just silence. I sat on that same porch weeks later, coffee in hand, sun on my face. Frank walked by, gave me a nod. Jeremy called from work, voice full of confidence. Life felt good. Here's the thing. Cutting Sarah and Jason loose wasn't just about money. It was about respect. They thought age meant weakness, that being a father meant being an endless ATM. What they forgot is that I've been around the block more times than they've tied their shoes. I don't bend easy, I don't break at all. And if anyone asks me now what happened, I keep it simple. My daughter and her fiancé tried to play me, I say. Turns out they weren't ready for the old man's game. And then I smile. Because at the end of it all, I didn't just win. I walked away sharper, freer, and laughing harder than anyone.